Hello, everybody. Welcome to another weekly episode here at the YYC Real Estate Show. I'm your host, Shiraz Anwar, and my co-host here, Sebastian. Excited and delighted to have two guests on today from the mortgage industry. We have Paul. Please introduce yourself, full name, and where your outfit is.
Yeah, I'm Paul Traptow. I work independent broker with Mortgage Connection. We're part of the DLC, Dominion Lending Center franchise part. So it's Mortgage Connection, but with DLC.
Amazing. It's excited to get to know more about you after we do the update. And of course, another very, very special guest. Very excited to have the broker, owner, president of Urban Realty, Sunil Mall, here with us today. So thank you very much for coming on. So we have a lot of questions for you, not necessarily about today and what you're doing actively currently. It's really we love to get to know everyone on a personal basis as well. So we'll ask those questions in a moment. Of course, why everyone tunes in, the weekly update. What has been happening? We've watched the landscape change in front of our eyes week in and week out. I remember for months and months, we were seeing the weekly sales. Yeah. Always around the 800, almost to the 900, like 800 to 900 sales in 7 days in Calgary. We saw that go down to 700. Then we saw it drop all the way to 591 the other week. So again, real estate is a graph. Real estate is a trend like this. So we're in fall, we're in winter. You're going to expect a little bit of a slowdown, but daily migration is still at an all-time high here to the YYC, keeping our real estate market here much stronger than other provinces. So people are still migrating here. So let's have a look at what has been happening
this week in Calgary.
Sebastian, you can congratulate yourself in front of everyone. We were talking last week about your 3 deals in one. I heard that had a successful, smooth possession.
Yeah. The yesterday was the possession for the double end that I had. So that went very smoothly, and
congrats.
It's always good when both the owner and the buyer are very friendly. And the owner was like, if they want to move things in early, usually I don't say yes, but they already met each other, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, I advised the owner, and I was like, usually we don't allow that, but I mean, everybody was so happy at the end of the deal. And it went through very smoothly. Now I just have to sell their property, which is going to sell the 27th. And then
so it's conditional till the 27th?
It's firm. Yeah.
Oh, it's firm.
The possession
is 27th.
Yeah. Just have to go for the signing and everything's done.
And shout out to Jay Webb, the wine merchant who we use for our closing gifts. I understand they were happy to see a nice
they were so happy. Okay.
Big wooden crate.
They were so happy.
Full of goodies.
Oh, nice. Especially with 3 deals, right?
Yeah.
The one of the owners, one of the buyers that just got the house, they're in their house for the first time when it was theirs, and you would expect them to be like, oh, I'm finally in my new home, but she was just staring at this crate of wine. She was like, okay, I'm gonna put the work in on this.
She couldn't wait to kick you out of her new home. She locked the door.
Yeah. So yeah, Jay Webb, great closing gifts, and not even closing gifts, but just a great place to get your wine.
It's an experience in there. They do monthly wine tasting events. Come on down anytime. It's more than just the establishment that will sell you the product. They really pride themselves on giving you the experience, right? Mm-hmm. So what we talk about, and not surprised by this, again, as we just mentioned, sales have been dropping because we're going into fall winter. So we were in the 500s last week. I believe it was 561 last week. For the last 7 days, we are at a 470 only sales, right?
Yeah.
So, but I know that listings have gone up. So 2,562. Again, balanced market, we always talk about it. 3,500 to 4,000 active listings is a balanced market. So being at 2,562, again, still no changes there. We are still in a seller's market. So let's see, like we always like to have a look. What were the two highest? Okay, 2.475 and 2 million. Oh, okay, so that apartment did sell. It surprises me sometimes, we're not in Las Vegas, and yet Calgary has $8 million apartments out there.
And the 10 million one in Kensington now.
There is that's a new build.
Is that new build? Right. On
the
corner of 10th and
where Julio's bar used to.
What's the condo fee on this?
That's what we always like to see. It's not that bad.
Oh,
1743.
not that bad.
That's actually not that bad.
Yeah,
because the other ones they were like 3,000-4,000.
Yeah. There's some in Eau Claire that are like way higher. Yeah, 18. What's the
Better come
property
with like a white glove butler at the front,
concierge.
Like
Yeah.
concierge. But I'm surprised here. Chinatown, 2 million. But it's relatively new, 2019. And then of course here in Mount Pleasant, big 6-bedroom one. Not bad. And then we always like to, of course, see the lowest two, and we've seen like 150,000 for apartments usually. So we'll see if that trend is still continuing. Wow, let's have a look at this one. That's a record right there. Only 121,000 you can get into the Calgary real estate market, which is why
You
this
got
one.
a deal.
Yeah, this is why this one was only on the market for 4 days.
Bachelor or
And Bonus isn't bad, right? Like normally we see Chinatown and those studio suites, 300 square feet, right? To have
Or Forest Lawn. This is
Bonus. Bonus, 471 square feet, only $400 a month condo fee. So this is a good one. But foreclosure, we've talked about that heavily on a few of our episodes. This one was a foreclosure through CIBC. So went right away, 4 days over asking, of course. And the second lowest sale was 157 in Banff Trail, another old apartment, 1958.
So 16th
touching-
Avenue. Yeah.
Touching on this, I wanted to talk about this. I just recently experienced helping a first-time homebuyer, and I love helping the first-time homebuyers. It's exciting for them. It's exciting for me. I pride myself on making sure they're taken care of and walk them through all the necessary steps, outline things they may not have been aware of when it comes to home ownership and buying a property. So here, I was persuading because you like to buy as new as possible, especially if you're investing. This is a first-time homebuyer, young professional, wants an apartment downtown because he works downtown, but knows he wants it for 4 to 5 years. He's an accountant. He's a numbers guy, right? He's like, I want to invest with a good number and I want to exit out in the 4 or 5 year mark and do it again, right? Hopefully with a profit. So you urge them, in my opinion, to as new as possible. But the new ones were really small square footage. They had all the amenities. It was in a high-rise building. So he had me show him a 1,300 square foot in Crescent Heights, 1981 building. And the problem here was post-tension cables. So for those that don't know about post-tension cables, it was a common practice for construction of high-rise buildings in Calgary from 1970 to 1980 and creeping into the early 1980s, such as this one, 1981. So, they stretch cable to a tension and then they have concrete around them. Now, it's actually stronger, but it requires much more ongoing maintenance, which is why the condo fees in these buildings are higher. And not only that, the major concern is that for those that don't know, and my buyer found out, a lot of lenders, and you can talk to us about that, Paul, they won't even lend on post-tension cable buildings. So that's what happened here. He had his mortgage pre-approval, and he was told to give a non-waiver, and you'll have to go talk to someone else because we will not fund a post-tension cable mortgage. So it's very few and far between those buildings. However, it is a issue. It is a hurdle, even if they have the engineer's report, which they did. Of course, the selling agent was really trying to do her job and say, like, come on, like the maintenance is great. The price per square foot for the condo fee isn't that high. And this building's been well kept. I said, hey, he loves it. If that's what he wants, I'm happy. However, the main point here is if the lender is not going to finance him, he's concerned about, because like I said, he's a numbers guy. He's an accountant. He wants to exit out later. He's worried about resale. And I wouldn't do my job correctly if I said that isn't a potential hurdle and delay of sale. Maybe you'd have to price it lower, wait longer to sell because of that. So it's fine. We found him a new building right in downtown, so he's happy. But I wanted to just touch on that for those that aren't aware, from 1970 to 1980, there are those buildings, older ones that have post-tension cables. I had a meeting at my brokerage today with gentlemen here. So there is something I wanted to talk about just briefly because it really intrigued me. I dived deep into this after it was brought up at the meeting. There was a lot of details I didn't know about this. So we all heard about the ban of foreign buyers for a while, but I didn't know that earlier this year, January 2023, that there was an official prohibition on the purchase of residential property. So I didn't know all these details like this that go into it. So an area that has 10,000 or more residences, like some of these rules apply. The biggest thing is if you don't do your due diligence as an agent and you help someone and they fall under these parameters where they are not allowed to purchase non-Canadian, right? And there's rules in a certain amount of days that they have to be here, whether a work permit, whether a residency, there's different amount of days that apply to classify where they are in this. But for us, so I want to talk to you about it, Sebastian, as well, is that we can get hit with a 10,000 fine if we sell.
And you're criminally charged.
Yeah.
You get criminally charged.
Now you got my attention. What's going on?
So basically, like, really do your due diligence. Really take that FinTrack seriously. And a lot of times, there are stages in place for us to protect ourselves. Like, they have to go to a lender and the lender has to approve them. So this should get caught there. But we also need to do our due diligence as well. And I've helped a few permanent residents buy a property that just had a PR card, and I made sure of that.
Yeah.
They didn't fall under, and all I knew was that it was a 2-year ban on foreign buyers.
Yeah.
But I did not know all the details about this. So for those out there, if you want to have a read, it's really interesting. Just go to just type in Google CMHC and type prohibition, CMHC prohibition, and this will come up.
When you're reading into it, I heard that if they have a work visa, they can also buy property, but it needs to be long enough. Is that true?
They need to have been here long enough, actually, and then their work visa duration, like expiration, has to be long enough.
Yeah, you have to have, I think they have to have at least 183 days remaining.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So there's certain days, like to the day. So
Because when you hear like no foreign buyers, I thought instantly, like, if you're not a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident, like, no luck whatsoever.
I always said they should have done no, like, inter-provincial. If they were trying to combat what happened in Calgary, it was all out of province buyers. Like,
and out of country, but they, as much as the federal government tried to stop people from buying residential property, none of this applies to commercial or land. So I mean, somebody can still, if somebody wants to put money into our economy, they can still buy 100 acres, they can buy a farm, they can still buy a plaza.
And I'm sure if they had a corporation with a Canadian person in it, they could buy anything they wanted to as well.
So there's definitely ways around it. I mean, I think what the federal government, their intention was just to try to cool off like Vancouver and Toronto markets with this.
Yeah.
But I don't see how effective it would be to try to keep foreign money out of Canada.
Yeah. Or like the new like the anti-flipping tax.
Yeah.
Like, anybody who was doing it a lot had a corporation anyways.
Exactly.
It doesn't affect them. There's just the small time flipper who's maybe doing one property.
And those are the guys we want to help, man, right? Those guys, if they can make a little buck here and there, like, they're going to put it into our economy. The corporations, they might go somewhere else.
Yeah, there's so many rules that they put it out there, but you got to look at the fine print and see how it applies or doesn't apply. So it's a very, just like yesterday with the, was that Tuesday with the mortgage charter that the Liberals came out with. Not very effective or having much impact, really. They just had to splash a lot of info and get some press, but it's not.
Doesn't have anything you can sink your teeth in.
Yeah.
Right?
So we also, after dwelling into what's happened in the last week, we like to touch on interest rates. So I'm not going to touch on that today because I have Paul here. So again, the Bank of Canada keeps saying that they're going to hold steady, and after saying that, we've seen 6, 7, 8 increases since. So please reintroduce yourself one more time.
Sure.
And we'll start by getting to know Paul, and you can touch on that, please.
Okay, sure. So Paul Traptow, independent mortgage broker at Mortgage Connection. So that whole part on interest rates is very interesting, and I hear about it in the news and stuff, and it really frustrates me because the media actually doesn't present the mortgage rates properly.
Mm-hmm.
Because the one that's been getting all the press, as you mentioned, is the one with Bank of Canada. So that's anything that's variable, right? So if you've got a variable mortgage, if you've got a variable car loan, that type of thing, that all falls under the Bank of Canada part of it. Anything that's a fixed rate is based on the bond yields. So two very different impacts of where the rates come from. So when the Bank of Canada increases in what they have for eight times, like you say, that immediately affected the variable. It didn't always affect the fixed because the fixed are on bond yields. So they certainly do have some impact, but not in the same direct correlation to when the Bank of Canada makes a change. Because it just was recently seen in the whole part with the increases was to try to impact inflation, right?
Mhm.
Well, inflation was up because Tiff Macklin at Bank of Canada kept popping up the variables, which then affects certainly people's mortgage rates, but for anybody in business that's trying to import things, all the cost of gas for the transportation, everything, that was what was fueling cost of inflation. So there, I think I've seen somewhere where the mortgage rates were 25% of the increase in inflation. Well, that's because he bumped up rates.
Mhm.
So the fixed and the variable are two very different as to how they're determined. Certainly the bond yields have been seeing some reduction in the last little while. So we've seen some decreases in interest rates. The most, I guess the biggest thing that I've seen in my 20 plus years in mortgages more recently is that it always had been the shorter your term, the lower your rate. What's happened now is that's basically gone into a total flip. Whereas now your highest rate is in the 5-year because most people, economists are determining that in the next 2 or 3 years, we're going to see rates coming down. So your basically highest rate right now is in a 1-year, and then 2-year, 3-year, 4-year, and a 5-year is the highest rate, where traditionally it's always been your lower of the rates.
Crazy.
So it's just been, kind of weird. And because now interest rates are all based on, are you a conventional buyer? Meaning, are you more than 20% down? Or are you a non-conforming buyer? 65% loan to value. If you're a high ratio buyer, so as little as 5% down, but by the time you pay your high ratio premium at 4%, you're putting 1% into your property.
Mhm.
You get the best mortgage rate. Better than somebody who's putting 20% down. So trying to explain that to the average buyer, it's like, it makes no sense. What made actually the most sense to me, I actually was working with a doctor, and he said it's kind of like AHS rules. They make the rules that make no sense, but they're their rules. And that's almost what the government is doing for.
Gotta wear a mask when you're in your car alone.
Exactly.
It doesn't make sense. But
It doesn't make sense, but that's their
That's
rules.
their thinking.
So it's definitely interesting. And just
and what are we at today? Like a 5.14?
no, you're probably more in like 5.64.
5.64.
Yeah,
okay.
if you're going like at probably a 5-year, an
Okay.
insured part of it. So everything, and the other part that really, I guess, frustrates me in the industry, and I've been in over 20 years, is the interest rate. Everybody focuses on the interest rate, but it's really not the interest rate. Can I find a solution for the client? Can I get a roof over his head, or can I keep a roof over his head? And where the interest rate is really not a big deal. And I've tested this with people in the industry. I'll ask someone, what's your interest rate on your mortgage? Because everybody wants to know that when they get a mortgage. And literally 95% of people, between 90 and 95% of people, cannot give you to the exact percentage point of what their interest rate is.
Crazy.
And that's even in business. But if you ask somebody what your payment is, they're telling you right away. It's $2,000 monthly, it's $1,500 biweekly. But if you ask them what their interest rate is, very few people can actually tell you what it is. But that's our fault as the industry, because what do we advertise? Interest rates. Right? So it's really not about the interest rate. And a funny thing that I'd heard, and I sometimes use it, is on relationship to interest rate. Well, what's the price of a yellow car? Anybody know?
The price of a yellow
car, yeah. Are we talking an 84 Pinto?
Yeah.
Or a 2023 Lamborghini?
Right.
They're both yellow. They're both cars, but they're very different in what they do as far as cool. Use and purpose and the cost of it. So interest rate is a starting point because we push it, right? As the industry, right? Somebody call up, hey, what's your best rate? Well, now, okay, are you self-employed? Are you fully employed? Do you have a T4? Are you buying conventionally? Are you insurable, non-insurable? Is it over $1 million you're buying?
Yeah. All
those factors now come into play. So quoting a rate is actually detrimental to the client because, and I did this early in my career, someone would call me up, hey, Paul, what's your best rate? And I'd quote them something. Then I find out, oh, they're double banco. They haven't filed taxes in 5 years. And I quote the best rate, and they go, you liar. You told me this rate, and now you can't get it for me. So I'm always cautious on quoting rates until I've
So
actually
you
had a
have
chance-
all the documents
Exactly.
you need from them. And how long do you hold a rate for once
You can hold a rate for up to 120 days.
120 days,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. So at the end, obviously, you know, I don't know if we asked at the beginning, but how can people reach out to you if they wanted to get in
Yeah,
contact?
easily. Yeah, that probably the quickest is either a phone call or a text, 403-701-7878.
Awesome. No social media handles we can tag you on for these clips?
Just on the, I'm not very active on social media. Yeah, so probably a phone call or a
All right.
Yeah.
No.
text is probably
Fax.
the,
So I have a question about that. You said people that haven't filed taxes. I know this might be questionable for an accountant, but I actually know some people that haven't filed taxes in a very long time.
Yeah.
And at this point, they're just scared to. What
So-
would be your advice to them?
the biggest part, are they an employee and they've been having
They've had
taxes deducted from source, or are they
for
self-employed?
one specific person I know, they've done like employee work and cash jobs for like the last 5 years, right? Mostly
Okay.
cash jobs.
Yeah.
So in their case, like they're just at this point, they're like, I don't think I should go.
The
into
government
this,
will
right?
give a base rate to them based on any return they would have done in the past and then give them a late penalty. It's actually not as bad as you think. I did
Okay.
help a gentleman because he needed to do it to start the process of qualifying for a mortgage so I could buy him a house, right? Or help him buy a house.
Yeah.
And I went through this and he was like, oh man, I'm going to owe them like 20, 30 grand. He ended up having to pay with a penalty $1,800.
Wow. Okay.
So, and the reason for that is actually the government. So unpaid property taxes or unpaid taxes to the government are the only things that can step in front of a mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why a lender is very critical or very important that you got to show that if you have an existing house, your property taxes are paid up to date and that your personal taxes are filed and up to date. And there are lenders that it doesn't matter what your income is showing, just as long as you filed it. And we can see if you're owing the government money, we've got lenders that will pay out CRA outstanding, not in the A market or the prime market that is CMHC insured, but the B side or alternate. We have lenders that will pay out outstanding
Okay.
taxes owing to CRA. So it really, individual situations, and it really comes down to, are they self-employed, right? And self-employed can be a wide range part. Are they a business for self where they do the T1 general, the income, whatever their expenses are, or they T4 incorporated and they pay themselves either a draw or a dividend, or are they somebody that pays cash and doesn't have anything showing with CRA? And all those factors can all be worked into for mortgage financing. It just depends on the individual situation.
Okay. So it's just like kind of get advice from a professional and you'd be surprised kind of thing.
Certainly on the tax side, want to do that, right? I mean, I know mortgages, but I don't know intimately about accounting or the legal side of it. So
Okay, that's reassuring,
Yeah.
right?
And you're gonna eventually have to pay your taxes anyway. So
Yeah.
I mean, if you're
You
4
wanna
or
do
5
anything,
years behind now, you might as well do it rather than getting 10.
Yeah,
It just-
Yeah.
I mean, we've all been through it. I can say I'm a product of that. I'm behind on my taxes all the time.
The great thing with the government
That's
is like they will carry things forward. They'll carry losses forward. So as long as they get their money, even if it's down the road, people get too scared and too worried about it.
Yeah, and that's where you
actually
can.
not
It's actually detrimental to yourself because you can't get any financing. You can't go to the bank and get a loan. I mean, as our lives get busier and busier, you want to have kids, you want to get married. I mean, that's a big impediment for you actually starting your life. It's like you being like not being able to get your driver's license.
Right.
Right?
You
Like,
have to pay all the tickets off first.
because exactly,
before you renew.
So
Right.
Think of it that way, right?
Right. So
Right.
I mean, the freedom that you get from being able to drive is like it's the freedom that you get financially from being able to borrow and lend and stuff like that, right? So you just look at it that way, and you'll realize that paying your taxes is important.
Yeah, we. Well, actually, first before I talk about that, we'll just please reintroduce yourself, and we'll get to know you, and then the question I have, I'll go into it.
Sure. Yeah. So my name is Sunil Mall. I'm the broker and president of Urban Realty. I've been licensed realtor pretty much like since out of high school, 14 years. Background is mostly heavy in commercial. The first 4 years of my career, I did a little bit of residential sales, and then for the last 10 plus years, I've been doing commercial leasing, land development, sales, property management, lease assignments, you name it, all the above. so well versed and lucky enough that I started early. So now I've kind of acquired all this knowledge, and I'm still pretty young, I guess. So it kind of worked out.
No, that's great. Thank you again for coming on, and really appreciate having you here. And your commercial background and expertise has helped me firsthand in just the last 2 weeks here. I won't, for disclosure purposes, mention any names here, but I can mention the scenario of a purchase and sale representing both sides that Sunil is helping me on. That whole implication of showing and doing your taxes can come back to hurt you.
Yeah.
Right. Not only
Same
can it
thing.
hurt you when you're not paying your taxes and you want to get a loan, it hurts businesses when they think they're taking advantage of tax shelters or what they think are tax shelters by overinflating their expenses and putting too many meals and stuff and too many leases on the company, and then
And just
your
showing
net income comes down, whereas you're happier because you're not paying tax and you get more in your pocket and you get to spend it on these other luxuries, I'll call them. But then when it comes time that you want to sell your business,
Yeah.
everyone looks at the numbers, and the numbers are the net income. So
Yeah, and so you can't really have your cake and
eat it too, yeah.
right? It's like
Claim it.
yeah, exactly. If you're showing,
I can't have your cake and claim it.
Yeah. If you're showing, and this is a standard practice among lots of businesses that we sell. Traditionally, everyone is always scared of paying taxes, and no one wants to pay taxes, and then they'll, like Shiraz was saying, that you discount your income, and then what happens is when you actually go to sell your business or you go to try to get a loan or anything, everyone's going to look at your financials and how much money you're bringing in, right? And so if you're showing a loss or a low net income, it really cuts your legs out from underneath you. You can't. It's pretty much showing like a zero.
Yeah.
Right. So it's it's very, very beneficial to pay a little bit of taxes because you can always borrow against it. Right. And if you're a young person, that is the best tool that you have to build equity is play with the bank's money, play with someone else's money. And as long as you do a good job, manage it properly, 9 out of 10 times you'll be successful.
Exactly,
It's just, a lot of people are just scared of taking that risk and they don't want to, they just see money going out. But nobody, looks at the bigger picture. They can see the money that they can bring in.
It's short-sighted.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
They're not thinking long-term. They're thinking right now, today, this year, I'm going to show less so I have more in my pocket. I don't want to pay the taxes. I'll do whatever I can.
For a business that has been doing that, eating their cake and not claiming it thing.
That's my new way of saying it. Thanks, Paul.
If they are thinking, if they have been doing it like that and they are thinking of selling it, is it just they got to wait 1 year for the next tax season where they could show that they actually made income? Or
it would actually be 2 years.
Okay.
If you're gonna start taking these steps to show better net income on a business where you've been trying to take advantages and not show that to avoid paying taxes and stuff, they're not going to want to see 1 year because they're going to see your previous years and where they're seeing no net income. So they're not going to be like, well, what happened all of a sudden the next year?
Yeah,
when you went from 10,000 net income to 80,000 net income. They want to see it, I would say, for at least a couple of years, right?
Okay.
Are you talking more about the financial statements of what they're showing or the person? Yeah.
Financial statements.
And that part's that's always been the kind of claim part. Through my 20 plus years in mortgage, I've sat on the lender side of the desk and I've sat on the broker side of the desk. So when I was representing a lender, it was on the alternative side, and a broker would call me up and say, I got a client that's making $1 million a year. I said, okay, but what's their net? Oh, they had a loss. So you can make as much money as you want, but if your expenses take you down to a negative net. So the income is never that determining part. And again, a part where we've got lenders that'll look at 12 months of bank statements, right? Because there's a lot of people that don't file taxes to show big income. Mm-hmm. So don't have a lot of income tax showing. But there are lenders that will look at 12 months bank statements to see if the cash flow makes sense. Because literally the part of the lender, and I've said this not only on both sides of it, lenders lend money to make money. Mm-hmm. So if they're not lending money, they're not making money. So they need to know that it's a good opportunity, price to risk, and does it make sense? Does this person have enough money coming in to pay the mortgage, all the other related costs, and their day-to-day expenses? And if that's showing through the bank statement, then they're okay to take a look at it. So the income tax filing and what people are showing for income is important, but it's not going to be the sole factor as to what lenders are going to approve for a property and get them approved. So lots of different things that come into play for sure.
Yeah, it's people don't realize all the work behind the scenes.
Yeah,
They're just,
because it's not their area of expertise,
Yeah.
right? So
So I'll ask you both gentlemen, you can answer one at a time, but have you both always been here in the YYC, or did you come here from elsewhere? Are you born and raised here? Are you born and raised here?
yeah, a good or bad part of it. I'm actually so now I have a grandson, so that's the fourth generation of a born in Calgary, Calgarians. My dad was
Nice.
born here. I've got 3 boys and now a grandson, so I guess we'd be
And always
four.
Calgary.
Yep, Calgary.
Awesome.
It's been a small
Right on.
2-year early career part down in Lethbridge in banking, but other than that, it's been Calgary, so
Nice.
pretty biased to Calgary.
So, and yourself?
Me, born and raised, born at the Peter Lougheed, which is actually not too far from my office where our office is. So I didn't travel too far. My dad was born and raised in India. Then he moved here when he was 16. And then my mom's from England, and she came here when she was, I think, 17 or 18. Met my dad, and then she never went back. And here I am.
Yeah.
So I'll ask you, both you gentlemen, we ask all our guests, with your time here in the YYC, what's one thing you really love about YYC? And what's one thing, if you could change, what would you change? We'll start with Paul.
I gotta say the closest to the mountains, the bright blue sky.
Yeah.
And we have on average the most amount of sunshine ever. Certainly the winters can get a little cold, but I'd rather dress for
Yeah.
cold than rain.
Yeah.
So it's the bright blue skies, good weather, closest to the mountains, and just literally the quality of life in Calgary is really second to none.
Yeah. We get that a lot actually for being close to the mountains, and we've actually talked about it and we looked it up online. Like, it's one of the sunniest cities in the world.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
What was it? It was like 320 days of
like
sun.
320 sunny
Get a lot of
days a
sun.
year,
Yeah.
which is
Get a lot
incredible.
of sun.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
incredible.
And when people don't, if you're not from cold weather, if it's a sunny day and it's like winter, right, and there's snow on the ground, the thing is, if the sun's hitting you, it's so dry, it just feels so warm and nice. Yeah.
Minus 20 outside and in your car, you're getting a suntan.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'll blast the heat. I'm like, I'm in Mexico. I'm in Mexico.
And okay, well, we'll finish. You
Yeah.
can answer both questions, and we'll get Sunil to answer.
Uh,
The other one
and
is, if there's
change-
one thing you could change.
The quality of drivers.
Yeah.
We really dwelled into that. When you drive elsewhere, we talked about it here with a few guests. The roads are made for automobiles. Why do the pedestrians have a right of way over the automobiles? That's my number one pet peeve. And the other thing is, everyone out there, please, with all respect, the fast lane is the fast lane.
Yeah.
We all have traffic jams that start because someone has an ego and is wondering why everyone's honking and flashing lights. Well, you're doing 90 in the far left lane on Deerfoot. That's
And you
why.
have signal lights that are to be used.
Yeah, right?
They're working.
Exactly. So we've talked about that a lot, about how the driving. The roads are so big here, so wide, that there's no accidents in the narrowest roads in Europe, and we have accidents all day long.
All over the place. Oh,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's
Sunil, those two questions. What's one thing you love about YYC?
One thing I would say that I love, I mean, pretty much everything that Paul touched on, I'm 100% in agreement. I would also just say, I think the fact that we have such a multicultural population, I think that's, extremely beneficial. And I actually love that because you kind of get exposure to a ton of different cultures and people, and, just the way that they do things is a little bit different than how we do things. And I think that's, just like the collaboration and kind of the I guess the entrepreneurial spirit, kind of, and, we have so many people from so many different backgrounds and communities and cultures that, Calgary is kind of I would say like a hub almost, where you can kind of do anything that you want, where I know traditionally we're kind of oil and gas, but now, we're getting a lot of tech in here. You have a lot of a lot of even blue collar jobs, right? It's not just traditionally oil and gas. So I think that the people and the community that we have here in Calgary is probably bar none. I would say it's probably some of the best, and you kind of feel like it's like kind of like a family. You know, when you're traveling, like if you go to the States or if you go, even in Europe, like a lot of the people are just kind of rude. No one really holds the door. They don't talk to each other, right? No one holds the door. There's no like neighborly love. But here, like even when I'm driving, like even in my community or something, people are always waving. People are always holding doors for you. There's always please and thank you.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of goes a long way just with the whole mentality of our city. I think it's really good. So I would say, the people I think are probably one of the best.
Diversity, big melting pot, and that's a great point. We're a little snapshot of what Canada represents. We all have a stereotype around the world, a good stereotype of being really nice, and we are
and accepting, right? And I think I think Calgary kind of it's a good show of Canadian values, right? Like kind of what we're about, accepting, like it's kind of, you have like the American dream where you can come from anywhere and do something. Like I think that's pretty similar here in Calgary, like
pretty evident here.
All my family when they came like from India or whatever, like they had like nothing, right? And now like everyone over time, they kind of got established. Now they got their families here, and now we're in the second or third generation, of our family, and everyone's doing good, right? And where else would you get that opportunity, right? You can't really do that, and everyone was able to do, what they kind of wanted to do in life, right? If if someone wanted to be like, my dad's in real estate, we do real estate together, but I've got uncles that. They worked at like the mill, like the wood mill in Golden, and they were able to make an amazing life for themselves, right? Yeah. So it's not just like a one size fits all. It's you can kind of be successful doing a range of things. So I think that's really good.
Awesome. And
one thing that I don't like. I mean, honestly, it's kind of tough. I would say, like, kind of what Paul touched on is the drivers is a little bit tough. I mean, being in real estate, I spend, I would say, at least 50, maybe 60% of my time on the road. So I definitely feel that. There's a lot of people are on their phone. A lot of people aren't paying attention. So I think the driving quality has definitely gone down a little bit. And it's not as cold as it used to be, but I think still the cold, just being Indian, we're not really built for minus 30. We're more built for plus 30. Yeah. So that still always kind of gets me. Even though I was born in the city, I'm still haven't gotten used to it.
Yeah. Amazing thing. Thanks for sharing. That was awesome. Do you have any questions for us at all?
Just I guess maybe like what. What got you guys started on the podcast? Like, how did you guys?
I would say it was mainly Shiraz. He had the idea from the start, and then he chose two good guys to start it with him. So myself, Sebastian, and Zach. And
Zach. So there's three of us.
Yeah. Okay.
Zach accepted with our support and encouragement, because you don't get these chances again in life, and we're proud of him. We stay in touch with him daily, and we know he's doing really well. Zach, another third part of our podcast, he accepted a scholarship to play for the University of Montana for hockey.
Oh, nice. Amazing.
So he's enjoying the American college life, right?
Yeah, so he's a young guy. Visit him there, right? It's
a 4-hour drive. Yeah. He comes back when he can.
And honestly,
he's sending me photos the other day. Like, he's like, dude, $5 jug. I'm like, get out of here. I'm like, if that's true, I'm getting in my car now.
No, but I mean, it just made sense, right? Because in real estate, we have to have a social presence, right? Mostly social media presence. Yeah. And it's just something it just checks all the boxes for us, right? We can make one long form piece of content, and we break it down into clips and reels that people seem to enjoy. So, and we enjoy it too, right? Every week we get to sit down, talk about our week and how it's been going. And plus we get to meet amazing characters throughout the city. I mean, we've met all different walks of life so far.
Anything YYC, we're all about it. Yeah. And we've had all walks of life on here, which we really appreciate. So, but obviously its focus is real estate. So this episode was a really great one. I'm really happy, and again, thank you both for coming on.
Yeah, anytime.
Thanks for inviting me.
This is cool. It's the first time being on a podcast, so hopefully not the last.
No, of course not. Any part ones, part twos. But what do you guys think? Like now that we've gotten to know you two, we gave the update. Like this is personally my favorite part. Like now we just have as loose of a conversation as possible. There's no rules. So what do you guys think? Everyone always asks me, like, how's the market, should I buy now? Should I wait? You know, it's tough to answer that question, right? I always have that motto, and people know me by saying this all the time. I'm like, I say two things. I'm like, the best time to buy real estate was yesterday, and don't wait to buy real estate and wait, right? It's like, well, the market, if I buy today, I'm going to be upset if it drops, or I bought it for 500 and the next summer I got an assessment and it's worth 470. I said, well, are you selling it? No. So then it doesn't really affect you, right? Yeah. Think about it as an investment, just like the gentleman I helped buy his first place, right? Yeah. He knows it's a 5-year play. So he's done his numbers, right? Even if he sells it for the same price he bought it for, which I promise you he won't, the way we're going, 5 years from now, he's still going to be ahead. Better than these renting, which he's been doing for the last 6-7 years, right?
Well, he's had 5 years to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Right. And to call his own.
Exactly.
So instead of renting and the landlord can't say, hey, I'm giving you notice, you're out next week.
Yeah.
And where does he go? So,
exactly.
And you never really know what the market is going to do. I mean, if we looked at what, like right before COVID, I mean, Calgary was not the place to invest in, right? There was probably a big X on Alberta market. House prices were low. Our oil was in the, was just crap. Nothing happened, right? And at that time, trying to convince people to buy a house, good luck, right? There was just an oversupply. And then, you fast forward 2 years and it's a completely different thing, right? And so, it's, to touch base on, like, it's never a bad time to buy because you never know what the future is going to hold, right? So some of my clients who I sold a property to, during COVID or right before, I mean, like, they're reaping the benefits of it now. But, at that time, he's like trying to convince them to, hey, like, you should try to do this and, come up with your 5% down payment and coaching everybody. Everyone's always a little bit scared, but, you got to take the plunge eventually, right? Yeah. So
the only way that the real estate market wouldn't go up long term is that if our population started to decrease. Like, that's truly the only way it would go down. But with the amount of immigration we're having, we're only going to see a very good market.
It's going to continue to grow, and people need to live somewhere, right?
We talked about it on the show before. Like, they released numbers where we need X amount of homes in the next 10 years, and we're nowhere near that number, right?
And we won't be the supply chain workers. The manpower to build it. The manpower to build. The trades are high demand.
Yeah, like we've done a lot of new builds with builders, like new build sales with the big name outfits. And again, normally I would always say add on 60 days. If you're buying a house with X name big builder, add on 60 days. There's always delays. Yeah. But now it's like, my clients, it's 8 months. 8 months from the day when they signed. Yeah. That we're buying a brand new place. We're gonna get it on this date. They didn't get the key till 8 months after.
After or signing of the contract.
8 months after the possession date they were given when they chose to buy that place. Yeah. And because of the trades, because of the delays. Right?
Yeah, you can't find people.
Yeah. I had a builder. One of the builders told me, "You're not allowed to give people timelines. Like, we're not.
Because that's the situation all builders are in right now. How can they?
How can it's tough to sell a property telling them, you could move in maybe at some point.
When am I moving in? I'm in a rental. I need to give notice to my landlord. My lease is up. Yeah, just go month to month. And we'll let you know. Yeah, the benefit is, like, as a tenant, you have way more power and rights than actually the landlord, right? And so, you can give 30 days notice. You should be okay. And in a market like this, landlord's not going to have trouble re-renting your place or finding a new tenant, right? So it's never an issue. It's what I tell them, and how I was able to get a lot of clients to buy a new build, and I let them know, and I over-prepared them. I was like, forget the date that they're telling you. I know it says March 1, but let's aim for August 1. Mm-hmm. It's like, what? I was like, yeah, please, aim for that. Aim for that, and hopefully we get it sooner. But from my experience in the last 2 years, let's say August 1, even though they say March 1.
Yeah. So. Yeah, everything is slow.
Yeah.
I'm shocked at only 470 some sales, like, in a week. We haven't seen it before.
Is that the lowest it's been?
Since we started the podcast, and we do a weekly check.
And how long is that? When did you have your first
6-7 months ago.
Really? Wow.
So every week it's been like 800-900. One week it was like 1,000 sales, right?
And that 400 is that?
Every week 800, 900, 800. Then only in the last month and a half, because we're now into fall winter, we saw the numbers go down. but man, I didn't expect them to drop by 100
Yeah.
each
And
week
that's
because it
all.
went from 800, 700,
In all categories,
600.
single family, condo.
That's just-
that total sales.
Total
So,
sales
yeah.
for 7 days in
Okay.
Calgary.
I mean, it does kind of follow like seasonal trends as well.
It does, but
But I mean, it's when you see 1 week 700, next week 400.
well, when we see
50,
800 every week for like
Yeah.
5 months and then 400,
that's significant. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think some of the prices are. I think some sellers are getting a little bit greedy as well. Like if you look at
Oh yeah.
what, like I guess like what you get, right? It's like you get like a 1 bedroom, 1 bath, and it's like 300,000. It's like
Yeah.
people. I think people like buyers are getting a little bit more smarter now as well, as where they're just like, yeah, I'll just wait.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? It's just not worth it. Like, how are you gonna make it? You're never gonna make your money back. Like,
Yeah.
it's never ever.
It's basically economics 201 that I took at university many years ago. Supply and demand, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Supply is there. You as a seller can demand that price, but if no one's prepared to pay for it,
Yeah.
then you're not selling it. So
Right.
Yeah.
that's-
I mean,
that's-
it is a challenge telling people that they're not going to get what they thought they were going to get, right?
Yeah.
Like I know this one person that wants, for example, $700,000 for their house, but they want to sell it to a builder as a lot in a place that's not really being developed very much. And they're like, just sell it privately. Wouldn't that make sense for you? Wouldn't that be easy for you? And I'm like, I talked to a builder, and the last property they bought was 510. Like, you're not.
When I do those
Gonna get
CMAs
somewhere.
and I talk and educate
Yeah.
my sellers, the sale prices are your ammunition, not the active.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not
what it
the
actually
pending.
sold for.
I said,
Right.
I
And
said,
days on
forget
market.
about that. I said, I can list your place for $2 million, but it's only worth what people are willing to pay. We can
Yeah.
only look at the sold numbers.
Yeah, but they refuse to go on market, which is the problem, right? They're like, we do not want to go
I'm
on
talking
market.
like they go on market.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
then
yeah.
they're like, well, I want to put my place up for $599. I said, this is $549, right? They're like, well, what do you mean? My neighbor's up for $625. And I said, yeah, that's why he's been up for 120 days,
Yeah.
right? Like, I don't care what the active ones are. Like when you're going there to talk to a seller and actually sell their house and do your job correctly, the real ammunition is the sales. Those are the real numbers.
Yeah. And
Not
in
the
this market,
actives.
like you should be able to sell it within like within under 2 weeks. a house
If
should
you
be
price
gone.
it right.
Yeah, if you price it right, like if you're not getting offer, if you're getting because you'll get showings, but if you're not getting offers, like within like the
I'm
first 10
gonna-
days, you should know.
I'm going to talk about a scenario that has been bugging me for the last 48 hours. I'm upset at myself. I'm not going to let it change who I am. I'm going to continue to be a good guy. I'm going to continue to be a nice
We love that.
person.
Yeah,
But here's the situation. Obviously, I won't go into details and confidentiality. I won't disclose addresses, names, right? But I'll tell you the scenario. I list a property. I list it correctly, accurately, to sell fast. Within 48 hours, we get almost 100% asking price. We put 90-day possession because my clients are downsizing. I need to sell them out of this big place and get them into a small place, right? It's time for them to downsize. They've been in here for 20 years, right? So the other realtor, great rapport, relationship on the phone, great to talk to, great to deal with, says, here's the offer, it's almost full ask, low conditions, great, huge deposit, but he had a December 18 possession. And I said, well, that possession's fine if I can find them their next place before that, which is why we have 90 days, so I can ensure that my sellers move once and pay a bridge loan, which you can talk about in a second, because they'll take the proceeds from their sale to pay for their next purchase, but there will be a bridge loan in the interim. So, yeah, these are exact words. Oh, my guy's flexible, don't worry about it. We'll just leave it as is, and you guys let us know when you find the next place, and we'll adjust it. And my mistake is I didn't get that in writing. Because we found the next place. January 3rd is the earliest we can get it. December 18th, we have to get out of this place. My sellers are homeless for 16 days. Neither side is moving their possession dates. This gentleman, I spoke to him on the phone and I said, I'll remind you of our conversation. We had 90 days possession listed. You came in December 18th, 30-day possession. And you said, your guy's flexible, which is why we accepted. He said, well, you guys signed it. And he's not wrong,
Yeah.
right? So I said to him, thank you very much for the harsh lesson. I will never go on good faith again. I will put everything in writing politely to the next agent, and next time I deal with this, I will say with no offense, I will need it in writing, because I said, thank you for giving me a harsh lesson that how great and nice you were with me to persuade us to accept this deal. Now when I'm asking you to come forth on what you promised me verbally, you're saying, hey, you signed it, sorry. And he's right. I have no leg legally to stand on here, right?
I mean, that's just.
But the
I
thing
think
is,
it's bad business.
it is, but it's also
It is, but like I said, I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
A lot of people are like, "Well, you do that, you be bad. Like, don't let them in. Make the place a mess for them on possession."
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm not gonna.
but it's
do
also
that.
not always on the agent too. Like he has to follow the legal instruction of his client, right? And the clients maybe want to move in earlier, right? And what can he can't tell them no, right? If they're
You shouldn't represent that because he pretty much told you that, hey,
Yeah.
we'll get it done no matter what.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like you as an agent, like you're going to just take, word for word. Cause like, even like we're probably the same as like, I'll take an agent for their word. Right. Unless I actually have a reason not to take them for their word, then I will. Right. Cause we're all in the same industry. You expect no one's trying to stab you in the back or screw you over. Right. But I mean, yeah, everyone's intention is not always,
That's what I learned the hard way
right? Yeah.
2 days ago. So
Yeah.
I found a solution, thankfully, very resilient and thinking outside the box. So I was able to figure
That
it.
you're resourceful.
Yeah, figure it all out. Everything's gonna be fine. It's a 16-day hiccup for my clients, but I figured it all out. Got all the ducks in a row. Took care of everything for them, for storage temporarily, for accommodation temporarily. And you guys would be surprised. Like if you look around online, it's like 3,000-4,000 during that time to get like an Airbnb or something.
Yeah.
I booked it. I got it for them. 16 days, 17 days, just to have a little window. $1,590, and they can bring their dog. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So
It's amazing.
But it took like
lot of stress,
literally
right?
it took like 6 hours of phoning and
Yeah.
talking to different landlords, different hotels, motels, different Airbnb owners, like a lot of phone calls. But hey, lesson harshly learned, right? I'm not gonna conduct myself in a different way because of this. I'm just going to politely ask for things in writing. So let's say tomorrow I meet a new agent that's very nice to deal with, very friendly, gives me the peace of mind that it's going to be a smooth transaction. I'm going to say, well, please, from what's happened to me in the past, I will need that in writing, right? Oh yeah, don't worry, we're going to waive sooner. Just give us the 3-week condition. I was like, well, we want like a 1-week condition, right? So I'm gonna kind of put that in writing. So.
Yeah, always good. I mean, I think an email is always good. Like I haven't gone to court too much, knock on wood, but
Too much.
right? But it's amazing what a judge will look at. I mean, they're very, very like they know their stuff. So it's like you try to pull one over on a judge, good luck. And they will look at everything. They don't just look at what real estate law is or what that law is. They'll look at what the law of the land, what precedents are. So like if you get something in writing, email, text, anything, the judge will look at that to see what the true intention behind that was, right? So yeah, I mean, getting something in writing is good, but it doesn't matter which form you get it in. It doesn't always have to be in like a
text,
contract.
email.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. This was like, and I appreciated it actually. The entire correspondence was the old-fashioned way. Talking on the phone, getting on the phone, and then putting in writing what we had ironed out on the phone and hashed out on the phone, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was unfortunately verbal, right?
Yeah.
So again, like in hindsight, it's only 16 days. They got almost full ask, which they didn't expect. They I wanted to list it less actually. I wanted to list it 20,000 less than we did. And I'm surprised and happy for them that they got like full asking for what they wanted and within 48 hours. So I'm telling them like, that's great. I'm like, and the house that you want and are in love with, you also got for less than the asking price. The only downside here is for 16 days, you're going to have to be in a temporary accommodation. Your stuff's going to be in those pods that I have showing up, right? Throw them in the pod. And I've done it before. I'll be there. Like I've grabbed a U-Haul and showed up and helped clients before and put in the hard work. Like, deals in real estate, sometimes you do a lot more and sometimes you'll do a lot less, but it all weighs out. Some deals, I'll put in extra work, but then there's some deals where I spent 2 days with a client and that was it. We just spent 2 days driving around looking at houses and that was all I had to do. Whereas sometimes these situations I have to go over and above, right?
Yeah, but that shows your character, right? And I think those clients that you kind of went over and above for will always kind of, will always recommend you, and you might get more business out of that, right? Like it's always good to treat your. Oh, I always try to go over and above, right? Because you never know where the business is going to come from, right? Majority of my business, I haven't done, thankfully, I haven't had to do too much advertising or anything like that. Most of my business now comes from referrals.
Right.
Always, right?
Mine too, and that's years in the game, right? You said you're 14, I'm 17, you're 20.
So it's that reputation part.
You're
versus
6,
transaction,
5,
right?
4.
Yeah.
So as long as you're doing a good job, I mean, your clients are your biggest, your biggest gateway to more leads, right? And
they're your biggest spokesperson. They are your best
They're
form
your
of
raving
advertising.
fans, right?
So like I'm big on like, and I don't understand why more agents don't do it. It's like we are governed and we have to get their ID. So their birthday. At the very least, write it down, keep it forever, put it as an auto reminder in your calendar. Send them something for their birthday. That's like one of the easiest ways to remind them that you're around and you appreciate their business and hope you like your new home or thank you for allowing me to represent you on your sale. I hope you like living abroad. I like literally had to find out where they are when I see like that client's birthday is coming up so I can make sure I send them something. Because I've helped clients that sold their place here and are like retired and beach life 24/7, right? So those little things to keep that circle growing.
Absolutely. Just like a touching point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's important.
Statistically, you should touch every 4 months. Statistically, like they call them drip campaigns or whatever. Like you should contact them on the phone like every 4 months.
Remembering you and top of mind, so if real estate comes up,
Exactly.
contact or
Yeah.
So
How do you in your field? How do you?
kind of that drip part. One of the big things is certainly a mortgage checkup.
Yep.
Right. Checking in with people, stay in touch. So maybe they've had got married or had children or something else, or they need to do an expansion part. So literally, minimum is that once a year mortgage checkup part, but then also right when things are changing for rates and different things, just some information. If it's financial literacy month, which it is in November, just little snippets or information to get that out there so they are sort of aware and top of mind, right? That if need something to do with money, then call Paul.
You're the guy.
Instead of call Saul, call Paul.
I was about to say, better call Paul.
Exactly.
There's a fresh glass we can give to Paul.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I had that for Sunil, but
Oh, that's it.
Sunil's got wine.
You got some wine.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, should we talk about a little YYC sports or what?
Sports, huh?
I can't believe we didn't make the Grey Cup again. We should be winning all the time.
We should be, but I don't know, did they overspend for Jake Mayer? 'Cause
They did. They definitely did.
He has not performed. Actually, though, an interesting part, I like kind of the whole sport part. I don't know if you guys are Netflix people. Watching it, Kurt Warner.
Yeah.
That his movie on Netflix.
Yeah.
Like he went from nowhere to where he became MVP, Super Bowl MVP twice.
Yeah.
I think it was, and another year from where he started. From I think it was a Div 2, University of Iowa, to the Arena Football League, and then got one of the teams, the Rams. So the first starting quarterback to actually win a Super Bowl. So like from where he came from, he just kept the dream alive, kept going. Is actually I haven't watched it all yet, but very impressive.
Yeah, Netflix, man, have they really changed the game? You know? Like goodbye to my Blockbuster stocks. Let them go.
What? Or Netflix, right? I actually forgotten that they started when you get that DVD sent to your house.
Yeah.
Literally, you're just stopping that. I think in the next month. Or the end of
Remember
December.
Columbia used to do that back in the day?
Jeez, yeah.
Remember? We used to get like the CDs.
Columbia House.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That I don't remember.
Paul and I remember. We're the old guys in the room. We're the dads in the room.
And the Flames, I mean, at some point, is it the coaching or is it the players? Like, just you're getting paid a good chunk of money to play a game. So
what is it?
They gotta get it together. Yeah.
We're not as bad as Edmonton.
Yeah.
Not as
Edmonton?
bad as
Don't get me
Edmonton.
started.
Well, thankfully we won. I went to the game. Was it last Thursday? We played the Canucks, so that was good.
Yeah,
We
so
won.
that was they're like number 2,
Yeah.
and we beat them.
Yeah.
And then so is that part? Yeah, last night. We just didn't have our legs for Nashville last night.
Is it just last night or?
Okay.
So we're not
7 and 9, not good.
no, because somebody today said that out of the
You know what the
playoffs-
running joke is about when the Golden Knights and like now they're in Vegas? It's like they're guaranteed to win every home game. Like the visiting team comes and they're in
just
Vegas.
party.
They get messed up.
Yeah.
Like,
They just,
that's like
they just
the
to
going
party.
joke, right?
So it's at the U.S. Thanksgiving time. If you're out of the playoffs, there's a very small percentage of teams that will get to the playoffs. by
The
the
Leafs
end of the
making a
season.
run
So-
here, the way.
So we're not doing what I think they anticipated with changing the management.
Yeah.
Coaching.
Well, I mean, Sutter's a good coach, but I mean, the players just think that he's too harsh, you know. But he's old school. Yeah, he's like that's.
If you're getting paid $10 million, you should be able to.
Yeah, you better fucking show up.
Yeah.
Yeah, you better fucking show up.
It's a lot of money.
Right.
Yeah.
So
It's crazy, like how much basketball players get paid more than hockey players. Like, we have like one team in all of Canada, but the Raptors players get paid more than.
Oh yeah, well look
Like
at
the
like how
hockey
much
players.
is like compared like McDavid is probably one of the best players, right? So you compare that to like LeBron, and it's like look at the difference.
No,
Yeah.
Actually, it's the baseball players.
Yeah,
That's the highest
that's the
paid,
next
But
one.
then they do play 162 games.
Yeah,
Right?
I never really got into baseball to be honest.
Me neither.
I went to a Blue Jays game back in the day. That was pretty cool. So, but watching it on TV, I think it's better when you're actually live.
Yeah.
But
So
watching it on TV, I
11
could never get
Yeah,
into
so
it.
if you basically put his, and rather do a comparison of, say, baseball or basketball players to
Yeah.
top NHL, wouldn't even be close.
Oh yeah.
Not
NHL is
even
like yeah.
Close. Add another zero.
Oh, then you
So- so
then you get into the
he-
NFL.
he-
It's
So
just-
his, and he's like one of the top. He's only 76th in the NBA.
Yeah.
It's like 76th. That guy doesn't even see any minutes.
yeah.
So on the bench, just like doing this and
exactly.
getting
That's the
like
best player
And baseball
in
probably
hockey.
lower.
for baseball.
Yeah, I bet.
But it probably has to do something with the politics in the sport as well, right?
Well, just not enough viewers, right? It's just there's not as many viewers as there is like.
There is a certain amount that they can pay
Yeah,
for their
4
players,
minutes,
right?
Yeah, well, they have salary caps and stuff, but it's just it all comes down to viewer, right? Like
Right.
basketball's they're big in China. They got all the
Yeah.
states,
It's
right?
international.
International, right? And then here you just NHL. I mean, we've got like a few Canadian teams, and then whatever they have in the states, but it's not as big.
Golden Knights won the Stanley Cup. It was like 85% Canadians.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah,
playing,
that went there.
We're playing on their roster.
Yeah.
They're all,
I can't believe it. So 3 soccer players and 1 football player. That's the
And-
highest right now.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Not
And then
even-
yeah.
And not even close. 45 million versus 168. 214 million. Wow. That's a lot of houses, Steve.
Yeah, that's the Saudi. That's the real oil money.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the Saudis
That's
paying
the-
him for a 2-year in Saudi
What was that
Arabia.
whole part with the live golf
Yeah.
controversy part of it?
And then they combined anyways, right? So like if you're Tiger Woods, you make sure just taking the billion. Right, it would have still been you would have been all good.
Oh man. So. Well, again, thank you, gentlemen, so much again for coming.
Oh, it
on.
was fun.
Great to.
Yeah, this is
have
cool.
you on,
Yeah, this is
and,
sweet,
we'll-
man. We should do it again for sure.
Definitely. Well, is there anything else you want to talk about before we wrap it up? Any last things? I mean, I shared a horror story in the last 48 hours. Is there anything you want to talk about with your clients? Anything you want to talk about with your, like, oh yeah, Paul, I'm good. I got 200,000 down payment,
Yeah.
and you find out he's like going
And
to
where
jail
it's gonna
next
react.
week. Like,
And the biggest part, again, and I love the industry, but things that are so misconstrued as a pre-approval
yep.
really is nothing. And it's all about the 5 C's of credit, and that could be a whole podcast just on that. But literally where a person can be gold, they've got everything they need, but if that collateral, being the property, is not marketable, the lender doesn't like it, you can be gold, but the lender's not going to give you a mortgage. So that's the part that people are misrepresented as far as the information. If you're pre-approved, doesn't mean you're going to be approved. No questions asked.
Right.
That property comes down to, right? What type of property and the whole thing. So
Which is why, and I just did it the other day. I tell my clients, my buyer clients, first we must waive in writing and be able to waive your finance condition before you spend money on a condo doc review or your inspection.
Yeah.
Oh no, my financing's good. I know it's good. I'm gonna go ahead and do it. I said, please, let's just wait. Give it a couple days. There's a reason we have like 7 to 14 day conditional period. I want that first because this might be a waste of our time.
Yeah.
And it happened here. The gentleman wanted to go ahead and pay for the condo doc review. I said, just let's give your lender 1 day. Sure enough, 1 day is like post engine cable. You got to find another lender. Sorry. So saved him his $400 condo doc review, and we're on to the next one, right?
Property is always a key component of any mortgage.
Yeah.
It's probably in some cases one of the biggest things. Even I had a realtor once say to me, "Well, at 20% down, who cares?" I said, "Well, your client has 20, lender has 80. Who's got more skin in the game? The lender. So even at 20% down, it still matters.
Right.
So
it's their risk. They're evaluating their risk.
right, that whole part.
All they can foresee is more maintenance, more fees, potential of special assessments, and fees just only.
And they don't want to get a property back, right? I mean, lenders aren't in the
they're not in the business
position
of
of
managing
getting
property.
exactly,
They want to
right?
know
So
you can make the payments. They don't have to knock on your door to take the property over because that's not what they.
Which is why, like, when I have clients that I meet and they make like 200,000-300,000, but they're self-employed, their spouse who makes 65,000 is much more desirable to the lender because they've been at the same job for 5-6 years. It's a paycheck every 2 weeks, and their whole thing is, well, like, yeah, you made 200,000-300,000, but next year you can make 0 because you're self-employed. We don't know. So lenders, like, they always give the self-employment guys.
2-year average is an important component of the self-employed.
Yeah.
Right. And that it's in an increasing, not a decreasing, because then it's not a 2-year average. So there's lots of things that go into analyzing that.
Is 35% the number to kind of alleviate any concerns?
Still no, because what the government and OSFI and all that part, so that's the non-conforming. So you still have to go within certain kind of GDS too. Certainly that's the sort of magic number to remove a lot of scrutiny. But still,
I'm asking because that was my experience. Like, having a job, buying my first place, no questions asked, no problem, 5% down. I was really young. Then I was self-employed. I got into real estate. Then I wanted to buy another place.
Yeah.
And that's when they're like, if you give me 35-36%, no questions asked. So that's why I'm asking about that 35%.
So that has changed. I mean, when I was in the business back in the 2006, 2007 mortgage meltdown, literally you could write on a napkin, I, Paul Traptow, make $125,000 a year. Here's my income verification. Hey, thank you. Because there was US lenders who were kind of doing 40-year amortization at 125% loan to value.
Oh, crazy.
And that was not sustainable.
Yeah.
Any of you guys familiar with the term ninja loans?
No.
So 2008 down in the States, ninja loans. No income, no asset, no job, but here's your mortgage. And they were doing it down there because
ninja loan.
Right back to the part where saying about speculation, right? So down there, because they have different mortgage rules, they have what's called a balloon payment.
Yeah.
So people were buying a house, had no right buying it because they could not sustain it, but they were basing it on prices
going up,
increasing part of it. They didn't have to make a payment for 8 months. So that house is going to climb up in value. I sell it in 8 months. I haven't had to make a mortgage payment. Boom, money in my pocket. But that collapsed and people weren't able to do that. So a lot of us went in foreclosure. Biggest difference between Canada and the US, the foreclosure in the States doesn't follow you from state to state. Whereas in Canada, if you default on a mortgage,
so I can get foreclosed in Colorado and go.
Yeah, there is part of it. So it's changed a little bit, but in Canada, if you foreclose in Nova Scotia, that covers you coming into Alberta.
Yeah.
So
which it should, like, that makes sense.
Yeah, and so I can have lenders that will fund people a day after discharge from bankruptcy, but if there's a foreclosure on your thing, lenders are literally you're not going to get a mortgage because
this ninja loan thing is kind of the same time where all those assumable mortgages were happening here, which they had to shut down, and they did shut down. Right?
Yeah. But in the 80s, where they referred to it as jingle mail.
Yeah.
And CMHC would come in the morning and
jingle mail.
All the keys were in the mailbox because people were just dropping
their keys off.
In the mail. See, I'm even
older
than you.
They're walking away from their houses.
To know the jingle mail.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's Yeah, financing is interesting. It's changes every day, which is what I love about it. That it's never the same day as.
And no deal is ever the same, right? There's always
Yeah.
something different, which is that's what I like about real estate too. It's
Yeah.
no deal is the same. There's always something you can learn, and even more so in commercial. Like commercial, you never do a deal that's the exact same.
Well, I'm learning so much just in 2 weeks doing it with you. Like I've done a handful of my own, but I never ever had help, right? So I learned kind of the hard way.
Happy to team up.
Now I got Sunil with me, so it
Yeah,
should
commercial financing is a different.
It's
animal.
completely
Yeah.
different. Yeah.
Do you wanna touch on any projects, or do you wanna leave? that?
No. This was amazing. Thanks for having me out, and I guess I'll just leave everyone with this: that it's very important that you always hire your own representation when looking for a realtor. As a buyer, you're actually doing yourself a disservice by not having a realtor because it doesn't cost you anything. That fee that you would pay gets paid out from doing the deal from the seller. So you approaching the selling agent directly or just going in without representation is like changing your clothes in front of like a open window almost, right? As you're letting the world look at everything, right? So for anyone that's listening, if you're looking to be in the market, whether you're selling or buying, but make sure you always have a reputable realtor. We have over 300 of them over at Urban. A great guy right here, and also Sebastian. So I would just leave it at that. That you don't do yourself a disservice by not having representation, right? Always have a realtor. There's lots of them out in Calgary. Everyone's always licensed, and it's good to at least get a second opinion on something and not go in something blindsided, because some of these decisions can haunt you for your rest of your life. I mean, buying a house is it's not like buying a piece of a car even, right?
Yeah.
These things, it's probably one of the most expensive purchases that a lot of us will make in our lifetime. And if it's not done correctly, it can actually put you back 5-10 years rather than helping you get ahead. So there's a lot of freedom that comes with playing the real estate game right. So I'll just leave it at that.
Touching on that real quick, it's like when clients assume they're getting a better deal and you go unrepresented and you go direct to the seller, you still have to get your own lawyer. So it's the same situation. You're not going to go, well, I'll just use the lawyer that the seller's using.
Yeah.
I'm going to come to you direct and give all my money away to the seller. And like you obviously will go get your own lawyer to represent you and only your best interest. So it's this, in the same regard, you want someone representing you and only you and protecting you for that transaction.
Yeah,
So.
and the seller's realtor doesn't owe you anything, right? Like they'll be super nice because they want to get the deal done, but they actually owe you no service because they're
Representing the seller.
Yeah, they're representing the seller. They're not your client. Like you're not their client, right? So like
They see dollar signs if you show up to
their
them.
duty to you is only to get the deal done, right? So it's always good to have your own representation.
Anything from you gentlemen before we wrap it up?
No, just be very aware of what you're going to improve for, and it's always not about the rate. You got to know the prepayment parts of it. Really understand what it is, and people think financing is complicated, but it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Just have to ask the right questions, or obviously get somebody who's going to give you that education piece, and that's what I try to do is make sure they fully understand what they're getting into. Because as you said, biggest financial decision in their life.
Yeah.
And reach out to Paul and ask those questions because I've had clients that just run the math and say, well, my mortgage is going to be $1,700 a month. I can afford that. So what about property taxes? What about insurance?
Insurance.
What about your utilities?
Condo fees. When we're lending, we take half the condo fees. So if you've got $1,700 in condo fees, you have to pay it. But
Yeah.
we're on the lending side, we're only using $800. So
There you go.
use your own stress test.
So one more time,
Make
how
sure
can
that-
everyone reach out to you?
Yeah, certainly maybe social media presence later, but for now.
We're going to get them on it.
Call or text 403-701-7878.
And Sunil, how can everyone reach out and follow you? And everything?
You can follow me on Instagram, all socials, Sunil Mall. I think my Instagram handle is Mr. Real Estate 91.
It
But if
is.
you just type in
It
my
is.
name, just type in my name, Sunil Mall, I come up. Phone number 403 826-3846. I'm always available and happy to chat, for whatever it is. So
Amazing. Thanks again. And we'll tag you in everything in the clips.
That'd be great.
Which is why we need to get Paul on, because we like to tag Paul on the social media.
Instagram part, but it's very not much.
Work in
activity on
progress.
it.
What is it?
It's Paul_Traptow. Yeah. That's
There you go.
There.
How you spell it? PAUL_.
Yeah. TRAPTOW.
Okay. There
As
it
it
is.
sounds, but it gets a lot of variations.
There it is.
Excellent.
Well,
All right,
Sebastian,
well,
anything?
No, I just want to thank both of you guys for coming on today.
Thanks
Really
for having us.
appreciate it. It's been great meeting you. I've heard a lot about you, and you were surprised. Raz didn't tell me we were gonna have two guests today. So
I like the surprise, yeah?
I like the surprise. I gotta
Surprise.
change the setup,
Yeah.
but no, it's been a great podcast, and
So you weren't at the networking event. That's where I met Paul.
Oh,
He
nice.
comes to those. He's one of the investors as well as an agent.
Oh, okay.
yeah.
He does reno and flips and gets them from
So
the
then I have a
networking
lender that
events.
we need to talk about.
Yes.
Exactly, yeah.
We do. But yeah, I just want to thank both of you for coming on, and I hope we get a part 2 and part 3 in the near
sure.
future.
Absolutely. We're around.
But have a great rest of your week, guys.
Perfect.
All right.
Thanks,
See you
everyone.
next week, everybody.
See ya.